Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and whoever else is tuning into my video these days, yeah, I haven't been on this space in a little while. Obviously, NBA news is at that point in the season, like in that point in the year. There's no summer league. We're still a month and so away from preseason. We are basically finished up with free agency, which is why I'm making today's video. Other than like a couple of moves, like potentially where Russell Westbrook is going to end up, where there's a lot of talk around Klay Thompson and the fact that he no longer wants to be a Dallas Maverick. There's a little bit of conversation. However, for the most part, free agency's done. LeBron made his decision. Everybody else has sort of signed their contracts now that LeBron is gone. The Warriors have done their re-signings. Not that any of that matters. But for the most part, free agency is over. And today I've got 5 teams that I really want to highlight from the free agency period. Not all of them are good. Or sort of there is one bad one. But all the rest of them are sort of on the more positive note. And sort of just discuss the offseason that they've had and how much of a change it is going to make to their next season and beyond. I've got a winner, a loser, a surprise team. I've got a big mover, so one of the teams has made a hell of a lot more moves than all the other teams in the association. And I've just got an honourable mention, which I want to talk about because I feel like they have had a sneaky good offseason. Without further ado, I may as well just start on the winner, on the most positive note. And a lot of you guys can probably guess this team. It's not really, there's not really a second fiddle when it comes to biggest winners of the free agency period. It is obviously the Philadelphia 76ers. I don't really want to touch on them too much because I spoke a lot about the 76ers in my last video when LeBron signed that contract with the team. However, it needs to be highlighted the offseason that they've had. Because not only have they brought along Jaylen Brown, who is an all-NBA talent. He's one of the best 2-guard, 3, wherever you want to put him on the floor. They brought on LeBron James on a $4 million a season deal, which even at the ripe old age of 41, having LeBron on a $4 million contract is just absurd. Already having the pieces around them in VJ Edgecombe, Tyrese Maxey, and Joel Embiid. But they also made a couple of little moves, which I think is going to directly impact this team. More so during the regular season. Like, I think these two guys are going to have the biggest impact on this team during the regular season. But when it comes to the playoffs, these guys are also going to be able to plug and play. I'm obviously talking about Dean Wade, who has just come over from the Cavaliers. The Cavs relied a lot on Dean Wade to be a big defender. And he is one of the better players in the league at doing such a thing. And Anthony Simons. Anthony Simons is honestly one of my favourite players in the entire association. There is something about Anthony Simons that I just enjoy watching so much. Like, the dude just gets buckets. That is it. That is his whole repertoire. And there's something like, even watching him back when he was playing for the Portland Trailblazers, when I feel he was at his peak, watching him play at the Portland Trailblazers was such a fun experience because he knew he was a more refined Cam Thomas, is the way that I like to put it. Because Cam Thomas, we know, is obviously out of the league now, but Cam Thomas is so one-dimensional. He was a scorer, but refused to try and do anything else. Simons tries to impact defense. He tries to impact playmaking on the floor. Like, he just puts a little bit more effort into those other areas, and I think that is what sets him apart. But he is one of the best scorers in the entire league. Like, if you gave Anthony Simons the ball and gave him more touches than any other player on the team, I feel like he could make a genuine impact on a roster. So yeah, I as I said, I did a lot of this conversation with the 76ers in my last video, so I don't want to touch too much on it, but the 76ers are proper contenders this year. If you've been on the NBA space anytime in the last week, you've seen all the DMs and all the Twitter posts from Kevin Durant comparing this Philadelphia 76ers team to the 2016 Golden State Warriors, which for me is kind of absurd because trying to keep my bias aside from everything and the whole league as a whole, that Golden State Warriors team was a one-of-one thing that will never happen again. And as good as this Philly roster looks, you can't guarantee Joel Embiid's going to be healthy all year. You can't guarantee LeBron James is going to be, still that 20-plus point per game player that he was year after year. Jaylen Brown is going to find out what it's like to arguably be the first option on the team. He obviously did it last season, and he did it with flying colours. He ended up top in MVP voting, ended up All-NBA second team. Like, he can do it. And did he get comfortable in doing that? And now being alongside Tyrese Maxey, is he going to go back to being able to share that load? I think Jaylen Brown will want to make that sacrifice for the betterment of the team. However, he is going to have to revert back to, the semi-first option. Sometimes he is, sometimes he isn't. And whether that confuses the roster, who knows? But only time will tell. 76ers, my biggest winners of the NBA free agency period by a long margin. I've got my losers, and I'm not getting into this either because I've spoken about it on the channel many a times. Golden State Warriors, we've done nothing. We re-signed Draymond to $27 million. Gary Payton just re-signed a couple of days ago for a $3.9 million contract, which I like the Gary Payton signing. Don't get me wrong. However, that has been our only signing for the entire offseason. Gary Payton II. We don't know how far away Jimmy Butler is still. Jimmy Butler is obviously going to be on this Golden State team next season. I seen a report this morning. I don't know how true it is because it was on one of those lesser platforms, I could say, that Steve Kerr, Draymond Green, and Steph Curry all know that they're actually no longer contenders and that they basically just want to ride out into the sunset together. I don't know them personally, but I know enough about Draymond Green to know that Draymond Green will never roll over and say that they're not contenders ever. And I feel like Steph Curry, he's literally got it on his arm working on excellence. Like, that dude is trying to be better every single year that he is on the court. So if they were to admit something like this, really just doesn't do it for me at all. And just running back a roster like this, like, we can hope as a franchise that as a Golden State Warriors fan base, that Jimmy Butler comes back and Jimmy Butler looks every part as good as he did when he went down, and the chemistry starts to flow. They start to win games towards the back end of the year and maybe make another playoff run. Whether it be the first round or the second round, who knows? But that is literally the only thing that this team can hope for now. Kristaps Porzingis has not been healthy for his entire career, and I don't expect him to start now. It just, yeah. Anyway, biggest losers, Golden State Warriors. I'm leaving it at that because that's enough from me. My surprise for this free agency period is the Chicago Bulls. Obviously, the Chicago Bulls have had a pretty rough last couple of years. Whether it be starting the season with Lonzo Ball, DeMar DeRozan, and Zach LaVine, going to the 1 seed. The Chicago Bulls fan base, I remember at that time, was in pure ecstasy. Like, they were like, oh my God, this is it. We're actually a relevant team. And then they finished 9th. After being first in the entire conference after about 20 games. It was harsh. And then DeMar left, Zach left, Lonzo did his knee, Vucevic turned into half the player that he was. Patrick Williams, that they drafted 4th overall, has never been a legitimate basketball player. And it looked grim for some sort of time. However, their 4th overall pick this year in Caleb Wilson is going to be an absolute menace. He's going to be a dog. I have so many high hopes for Caleb Wilson this year. They brought on Nicholas Claxton through the Julius Randle trade, which basically felt like, they were taking on a bit of extra money. However, you literally gave up nothing to get Nicholas Claxton on your roster. And other than not being able to shoot free throws, Nicholas Claxton I really like as an NBA 5-man. The dude can block shots. He can get rebounds. As long as he can stay healthy and on the court, he is a perfect center man for this roster. Not only do you bring on Nicholas Claxton for basically nothing, you go into the free agency period and you sign on Norman Powell, who 4 years ago, Norman Powell wasn't much of a basketballer, but Norman Powell is now an all-star and an all-star level talent. I can't really put him in all-NBA conversations just yet, but you bring on Norman Powell, who was an NBA all-star. You pair him along Caleb Wilson. You pair him along with these other guys, Nicholas Claxton. This team is got a hell of a lot of promise. Trey Jones is on the roster. Martis Buzelis is on the roster. This team will, if they're not good, they'll be fun. And to be completely honest, I think Bulls fans, if I was to step into their shoes, they have a hell of a lot more optimism about this roster than they did the last 5 years. Any time in the last 5 years. And it's good sights for the Chicago Bulls. And I'm sure they are all ecstatic about the upcoming season. I would be too, because Norman Powell is going to change this roster. Nicholas Claxton, they have a defensive-minded center, which is what they've been needing, because Vucevic, he was good on the offensive side of the floor, but a lot to be desired on the defensive side. And the defensive side is really where this Chicago Bulls team went astray. Patrick Williams probably doesn't have to play basketball anymore, which you're ecstatic if you're a Bulls fan. Because, look, from all the media that I've seen from Patrick Williams, there has not been 1 ounce of good media for Patrick Williams from Bulls fans. That is as simple as it gets. Chicago Bulls on the rise, and you love to see it because they are one of the bigger fan bases in the entire association, and they deserve it. They deserve the growth of this team. So they're my surprise movers for this offseason. A couple of small moves, but a couple of great moves. The big movers, I've got as the Los Angeles Lakers. Obviously, you lose LeBron James, so you sort of pivot. Where do you go to from here? You still got Austin Reeves, which you just re-signed to a beefy-ass contract. Luka Doncic, you still got from Nico Harris in some sort of pact many years ago. And now you bring on Walker Kessler, which, people have had some things to say about the Walker Kessler deal because a few first-round picks and $120 million feels like a lot for a guy that didn't play at all last year. It just kind of... You don't know how it's going to go, but Walker Kessler at his best is exactly what the Lakers needed. No more Jackson Hayes running the 5-man for them full-time. No more DeAndre Ayton. He's now off the books. That was an experiment, and it went about as well as we expected the experiment to go. Bring on Walker Kessler. You lose Luke Kennard, but you bring on... I'm trying to think of their roster now because they basically have an all-white starting lineup. They bring on Mamu Kalashvili, who you're obviously banking on the fact that Mamu Kalashvili has the same sort of production that he had for the Toronto Raptors last season, because he was really impactful to that Toronto Raptors team that took the Cleveland Cavaliers 7 games. And if you pay this man $50 million, you are really hoping that he is able to replace what Rui Hachimura did for your roster for the last couple of years. Because Rui Hachimura was a really great person for this team and did exactly everything that Luka Doncic wanted. Obviously, you guys were linked to Jalen Duren for a little while. However, with Jalen Duren still being a restricted free agent, I feel like he's just going to end up back on the Pistons roster, whether he likes it or not. But yeah, so they've had a lot of small moves, and they haven't necessarily been big moves. You've talked about Jonathan Kuminga as well. There's obviously, you brought on Kevon Looney. Kevon Looney is another guy that I absolutely love coming out of the Warriors. He didn't play too much for the Pelicans, but I feel that's because the Pelicans, Kevon Looney did not match the timeline of the Pelicans up. And they wanted Yves Missi to play minutes. They wanted Derek Queen to play minutes. And it just so happened that there was no time for Kevon Looney to actually step on the court. So, yeah, you bring defenders in around Luka and Austin Reeves, and that is basically all that you needed to do. Because these two guys are ridiculously good on the offensive side of the ball. So good that you don't need anybody else on your entire roster to play any sort of offense. You get someone to sit in the corner, happy days. Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, they are going to do all the heavy lifting for the offense. So the fact that you've brought in all these guys that are basically going to support them is exactly what you want. Jaden Hardy came over as a part of the DeAndre Ayton deal. And Jaden Hardy, although he, in the last couple of years, hasn't really played much, he was really good on that Dallas Mavericks side. Colin Sexton's another one. He's going to give you instant offense. He's not necessarily going to give this team much defense, but Colin Sexton is probably going to come off the bench for this team and lift their window. Quentin Grimes was the last one. That was the name that I was trying to think of, and I finally actually found it. Quentin Grimes is perfect for this team. Perfect. Literally don't think I could name you a better pickup. It just 3-and-D guys. That is exactly what this team needs, and that is exactly what they got with Quentin Grimes. Quentin Grimes can create offense if you need him to, if either of those two guys are struggling, but he can also dig his heels in on the other side of the floor. He is just perfect for this roster. So the Lakers have had many moves. They've had a lot of ins, a lot of outs. Rui Hachimura, DeAndre Ayton, Marcus Smart. All these guys have gone out. But at the same time, they've brought so many in. So this Lakers team is going to be an entirely new roster. However, I think that's a good thing for them. It was time to move on and try and, go fully into the Luka Doncic experience and see where it takes them. But yeah, big movers, Los Angeles Lakers. Last honorable mention that I sort of want to get into, this video has sort of gone for a long time now, so I'll just quickly touch on the honorable mention. It's the Atlanta Hawks. A lot of people have got the Atlanta Hawks being a top seed in the East this season because they've brought on Lou Dort, who is an experienced, proven veteran from the Oklahoma City Thunder. He can shoot the three ball every now and again, and is also one of the better defenders in the entire association. You pair Lou Dort with Dyson Daniels, people are going to have some pretty damn big headaches. And you also bring on Aaron Wiggins, who Aaron Wiggins is perfect for this team. Another proven, experienced player. This team needed experience outside of CJ McCollum, and bringing on these two campaigners, now paired along Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who just had the best season of his career, paired along Jalen Johnson, who came out this season and just showed the world how good Jalen Johnson is at the game of basketball and some of the ridiculous stats that he put up this season. Like, this team is on the rise. Onyeka Okongwu, such a good basketball player. Like, this team is going to be really good. They've pivoted so well going away from the Trae Young era and basically wasted no time bringing new players in and making a brand new team. And these players all fit around Jalen Johnson so perfectly. That is why people are so convinced that this team's going to be so damn good. Like, incredible. I can't really say enough good things about the Atlanta Hawks and what they have done this offseason. But I am going to leave it there because it has been a long video. I appreciate you guys tuning in if you have made it this far. If you have made it this far, liking and subscribing, if you could consider that, would be amazing. I'm continuing to try and grow this channel. I know content has been up and down recently. Quizzes will be next. It's just hard to get this, bring NBA content at this point in the year when there's literally nothing going on. Free agency's over. Preseason's a month away. The roster's not even out. Like, we don't know. The fixtures haven't come out. Adam Silver's still waiting to do the fixtures. So, yeah, there's a little bit left. But once the fixtures come out, I'll be all over that, covering that and that sort of thing. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys have enjoyed it, as I said, if you want to follow me, comment down below. I'll start the conversation with you. I love talking to you guys about anything basketball. Thank you guys so much. I will see you guys in another couple of days' time. Until then, keep enjoying the hoops. If there's any big news, I'll be back. Thank you, guys.